My husband posted my body online. Last Friday, I, 34F, spent my evening with my friend Kate, a young colleague, 24F, from work, as she wanted to discuss something private with me. I didn't think much of it since we have a very close relationship outside of work too. When I reached her apartment, the tension was palpable. She said she needed to address a serious issue with me but wasn't sure how to proceed. I advised her to just tell me directly. She informed me that she had come across 2 videos of a woman she believed was me on a P-site. I insisted it couldn't be possible, but she was certain that I was the woman in the footage, and she was right. I've never recorded myself undressed or with my husband, but there I was in 2 clips, one 7 minutes and the other 4 minutes, both filmed in our old room. As I watched each moment, it began to hit me that my husband was responsible. However, I suppressed that thought, hoping for a reasonable explanation. Honestly, I left her place with my mind in total chaos. I could barely process what she was saying, but she followed up with a text, stating she had contacted the website to have the videos removed and that she would support me through this. She also mentioned she was searching the internet in case there were more. I returned home and frantically searched the house for proof, and found it. My husband had been using hidden spy cameras to observe me and capture my intimate moments. I then spent hours throwing up, crying, getting sick again, and praying for this to be just a nightmare. I am a deeply religious and fully veiled Muslim woman, and I've never been with anyone except my husband. All this time, he has been sharing my private moments with the world. I don't know what to think or what to do. I can't look at him or speak to him. I've locked myself in our bedroom pretending I have COVID. All I do is search for how others have managed to get things taken down, and it seems like once it's online, it really is permanent, even if I remove it from this one site. I've been crying nonstop. He truly must be something evil, as he is currently talking about ordering in some of my favorite foods to see if I have an appetite since I haven't been eating well. I am so unbelievably hurt. I don't know how to share this with my family or how to ask for help. I am overwhelmed with shame, anger, and pain. Answering some questions. 1. My husband, soon to be ex-husband, and I share the same religion, race, ethnicity, and nationality. 2. My culture does not engage in honor killings, and I'm not afraid of my family harming me or not supporting me. 3. My family would support me in divorcing him. In fact, they would insist I do. 4. The laws in my country are secular, but under certain conditions, they allow various religious groups to have their own courts that can enforce their decisions, as long as it doesn't conflict with secular law or civil liberties. 5. I do plan on taking this to both secular and religious court, as I want him to face justice. 6. I choose to wear a veil, and the vast majority of my fellow countrywomen do not veil. 7. I am a niqabi, meaning the only part of me visible to the public are my eyes. When I am with my family or in women-only spaces, I don't veil. 8. Kate and I do not share the same religion or dress alike, yet we are friends. Quelle surprise. Update. I left him, as I said I would. He went to work. The movers arrived, we packed my belongings, and we left. The entire time, I was crying so much that even the movers were concerned for me, but I couldn't stop myself. I went home, sat my parents and siblings down, and explained the situation. My parents were, and still are, confused. They are elderly and fragile and don't understand the internet. They just keep saying, okay, let's talk to the people, and it will be gone. But my siblings understand. They are furious. They are devastated and heartbroken on my behalf. My siblings and brothers-in-law took me home. We waited for him, and well, we had a discussion with him. He denied it at first. So my brothers were firm with him, and he started to be more truthful. He said he did it because he was depressed, had a porn addiction, sex addiction, and because he didn't think anyone would notice. He claimed he posted only a few. When we asked him to be specific, he said he posted anywhere from 5 to 8. We had him take it down, but who knows how many times it had been downloaded or shared. At that moment, I also discovered he had a hidden phone. He was also cheating on me with random women and sex workers. All this time I thought he was working hard, but nope, he was out disgracing himself and betraying our marriage. At some point, he convinced us he needed to use the restroom, and he somehow managed to call his mother, who arrived at our place with his brother and cousins. There was a commotion since they were upset about how their family member was treated. Then things calmed down enough to explain to them what he had done. His mother fainted. His mother is elderly and not in the best health condition. We called for an ambulance. My neighbor had also called 911, and I was arrested by the time the ambulance arrived to attend to my mother-in-law. I spent the evening locked up, didn't exactly have civil conversation with him. So yes, I was arrested for assaulting him, specifically slapping him, and he refused to press charges. Got released the next morning and went home to my parents. Cried some more because my parents kept crying. Then a few days later, I spoke to some lawyers my sister had contacted as they had experience with non-consensual material being posted online. They've been dealing with the authorities since I pressed charges, and they're handling the websites as well. I've also started the divorce proceedings. I went to the clinic for tests, and fortunately, he hasn't transmitted anything to me, but I have another test scheduled just to be certain. I spoke to his mother, and she apologized to me even though it's not her fault. She told me she understands why I want him held accountable. She asked that I leave matters to the legal system rather than taking matters into my own hands and potentially causing him harm. He's hiding cheating, but he still calls and texts me from random numbers. He's still lying and trying to manipulate me. I've been keeping a record of everything he says and texts me. Oh, at this point, everyone knows. I mean everyone, even little kids. And I feel more embarrassed now than I did initially. Update. This man has wrecked everything I've worked for and has completely shattered what little sense of stability and safety I had remaining. I had to resign from my job, a job I really loved. Jobs don't come easily for me with the way that I look. I can't work there anymore because I am considered a potential risk to the children and staff. Since inappropriate men began harassing me at work, I work with vulnerable children, and mothers who heard about me have started refusing to allow me to work with their kids. Some don't want me involved with their child because their husbands can't stop acting inappropriately. Fathers have stared at me or made vulgar comments, and one of them even offered me money for sex. Men catcall me more frequently than ever before. Men gaze at me. A man followed me from my dentist's office and assaulted me on the street. Random men call my phone, my family home, and office to verbally attack me because my husband has posted my address, personal and work email, phone numbers, workplace address, and every other bit of information online. It feels as though the eyes and judgment of the entire world are upon me. Yes, the vast majority of individuals are compassionate, kind, and supportive of me. Many people have reached out in support, from old classmates to former coworkers, neighbors, members of my religious community, family friends, his family, and many more who have shown solidarity and kindness. However, those who are delusional and depraved, who side with him or are like him, are bolder, louder, and much more noticeable. Then, I discovered from my lawyers and their investigators that he was drugging me and assaulting me while I slept. I suffer from migraines and insomnia and use medication for these issues. He saw my medication as an opportunity to drug me using my own prescriptions. He shared, was actually bragging, on a forum where other depraved individuals gather, boasting about how clever he was for drugging me with my own medication, and they encouraged him to do even more things to me. My soon-to-be ex-husband has also decided to spread rumors that I was aware of the cameras and pressured him into posting online, and there are people who believe him. He also changed his mind about not pressing charges. I went to court. The judge and prosecutors were sympathetic and dismissed the case. It was a combination of my lawyers explaining the circumstances that led to me slapping him and his subsequent actions, threatening me, attacking me, doxing me, and blackmailing me by saying he didn't care about the slap and that he would drop everything if I forgave him. My lawyers used his own words against him since he wrote it in text, and on a recorded call admitted to me not having slapped him that hard and that he only pressed charges to cause me harm. But his crimes against me are still being investigated by the prosecutors. Uploaded this before, but it was deleted for some reason. Update. I wish I could say I was feeling better or making progress, but I feel awful and continue to struggle with everything. It is still his mission in life to be as cruel as possible and to obstruct every move I make. He still refuses to cooperate with my divorce attorney. He's being difficult at every turn and has scared off his own lawyers. He's now on his third attorney, and once again, we're starting from scratch in the divorce talks. The court granted him an extension because his previous lawyer dropped him just days before our hearing. Regarding the non-consensual material case, a trial date was set, but he recently requested an extension. He'll probably get it since his criminal attorney dropped him as well. So last month, both his divorce attorney and criminal lawyer let him go. The guy is on a streak. When it rains, it truly pours. My father passed a little over a month ago, and my mother is now in hospice, as she's soon to join him. I'm sad but not surprised, as I've had a lot of time to prepare for this. My father fought cancer for nearly 3 years, so I was as ready as one can be, and my mother's health had significantly declined for years due to her dementia. My soon-to-be ex-husband thought it was a brilliant idea to corner me at the venue where we held the post-funeral gathering. He waited until I was alone and approached me as I was tidying up the venue. I was by myself, exhausted at that point, and couldn't summon the energy to drive him away like I had done before, so I just allowed him to speak. He seemed almost decent while giving his numerous excuses for how things turned out. He lamented about how terrible he feels for hurting me. Then he started talking about how he always felt I was superior to him, in terms of earning more money, being better educated, having traveled more, and how he envied my confidence. Ironically, those were the qualities he was initially drawn to, but as our relationship and marriage went on, those same traits became things he grew to dislike about me. He also mentioned that he was upset because I refused to consider being a stay-at-home wife and mom, even though he knew from the start that I wasn't the stay-at-home or homemaker type. He said he tried to be a good husband, but my refusal to compromise or let him have the final word in matters fueled his anger and desire to humiliate me. He spoke about how he always had addiction problems, but he thought that getting married would cure his depression and porn and sex addiction. He felt that if I ever discovered this, I would have never married him or might divorce him, and that infuriated him, pushing him to want to punish me for thinking I was superior to him. He was envious and angry about many things, but when I told him, "So you hurt me because you felt jealous and inadequate in comparison," he lost his composure and began shouting, insisting he knew I'd react that way. I chose to stay silent and let him pour out his feelings uninterrupted. For 3 hours, he made one excuse after another for his actions. Ultimately, it all boiled down to him feeling inferior to me, being jealous and angry that I had the nerve to have my own thoughts in life. He revealed that right before our wedding, he joined an online men's group to help him with his porn and sex addiction. One of the suggestions was to make his own porn and watch that, but he knew I'd never agree, so he blamed me for his need to spy on me. He said he never intended to share it with others, but one day I angered him so much that as retaliation, he posted it, and it made him feel satisfied. So whenever I emasculated him by having my own thoughts or upset him in any way, he would post more. Eventually, he gathered a following and had so many guys asking him to share more that he started enjoying the attention for his sexual prowess. Simultaneously, his sex addiction resurfaced, leading him back into his pattern of picking up women, and when he couldn't find it for free, he'd hire a sex worker. Then, I suppose it spiraled out of control. The more he spent on his addictions, the more lies he told. The more he felt like a failure for me covering our expenses, the more he resented me. He became trapped in a cycle of self-destruction, which only intensified his anger toward me. He also claims he joined a support group for addicts and began attending an addiction rehabilitation clinic as an outpatient to address his issues, and he believes I should give him credit for that. He feels I should be proud of him for making those efforts and that I should take him back because he's investing so much effort. He also thinks I should appreciate him for not stalking me since my dad passed away, and he is sincere about this. He genuinely doesn't understand why I'm not acknowledging how hard he's been trying in recent months. In his deluded mind, he thinks that his honesty during our conversation should be worth something, and he believes I am just being a heartless bitch for remaining stoic and unmoved by his tears and display of vulnerability. Even though he put on a compelling performance of being human during our talk, I remained unmoved by it because there was nothing truly moving about it. I just continued to pack things up from the venue, got in my car, and drove home. I'm still not working, I still have crazy men calling my phone at all hours, and I still feel humiliated and embarrassed. The only good thing that has occurred is that several of the sites removed the recordings and banned him from using their platforms. New post. Curses are like young chickens, they always come home to roost. Finally, I have some good news. So, a while back, I was granted a restraining protective order, and my now officially ex-husband continued to stalk and harass me. After the umpteenth time calling the police and going to court, he was finally put in prison, and he has been there for a little over a month. I was also granted my divorce. I initially wanted a quick divorce, and was willing to give him everything he asked for, but he kept finding ways to delay or demand more, and I just snapped. So, I told my lawyers to go all in, and they did. My lawyers despised him, and I got everything I wanted and much more. Not to gloat, but it was really satisfying seeing him cry. This has been the most peaceful month I've experienced in a long time. This entire situation has been such a challenging time, and it has affected my mental and physical health. I've lost 12 kilograms and a ton of hair because of the stress he caused me, but I can honestly say that him wailing in court was the chicken soup my soul needed. I've relocated from my city and now live on the other side of the country, and I've found myself a decent enough job. I am slowly rebuilding my confidence. I am in therapy, and while I can't say it's working right now, I know if I stick with it, it will eventually. The non-consensual material he posted has been removed from the more reputable websites he used, and my lawyers secured monetary compensation for me, as these companies didn't want to go to court over it. I mean, money doesn't really change things that much, and I am still hurt, but it's something. I'm also not so naive as to think that it isn't still out there in some way or another, and I know there really isn't much I could ever do about that, so I'm just trying to make peace with it. Ex-husband will serve time in prison for what he did. My lawyers are working with the courts, and that should be sorted soon enough. I think the reality of the consequences is becoming very clear to him, as I have heard through the grapevine that he attempted to commit suicide and is now in protective custody until his trial date. He is facing up to 30 years in corporal punishment, and I absolutely look forward to it.